Now, before I start this video, I want you to guess which team I'm going to be talking about today. Last year, they started the season a miserable 3-16. They ended up finishing the season 36-46. And lastly, they are a pretty young team with an average age of 26.1 years old for the 2023 NBA season. Did you guess the New Orleans Pelicans? Now let's quickly recap the Pelicans' 2021 and 2022 NBA season. They hired Willie Green, the previous Phoenix Suns assistant coach, to be their head coach. They also drafted Trey Murphy III and Herb Jones in the 2021 NBA draft, as well as signing undrafted free agent Jose Alvarado. Now, they struggled to start the season well, going just 3-16 after Zion Williamson would miss the entire year with a foot fracture. Brandon Ingram would also miss 27 games with an injury to his right finger, which would require surgery. However, halfway through their season, the Pelicans made a team-saving trade by trading Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Josh Hart, Didi Louzada, and Thomas Satoransky, as well as a first-round draft pick and 2 second-round draft picks to the Portland Trailblazers for CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell. The dynamic duo of Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum worked, as well as the emergence of rookie Herb Jones. They managed to save their season and work their way up to 9th place in the Western Conference, where they beat both the Spurs and the Clippers to make it into the 8th spot in the playoffs. Here they would battle the number 1 seed Phoenix Suns and take them to 6 games. Now, although the Pelican season had a lot of ups and downs, it showed a lot of promise with their young talent playing well in the playoffs, especially with their star players of Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson being only 22 and 24. Now let's have a look at how their 2023 roster stacks up and why their team is so underrated. Starting at point guard, you got CJ McCollum, who has just turned 30 years old. When he was on Portland, some may say he was on the decline as he was getting a lot older. However, once he joined the Pelicans for 26 games, he averaged 24.3 points a game, which would have been a career high if he had played the entire season there. He is the Pelicans' best shooter, shooting 39.4% from 3 on 7 attempts a game. This is something that the Pelicans need because they lack a lot of spacing, especially with Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson not being high volume 3-point shooters. Now I think CJ McCollum is the perfect veteran presence for this young Pelicans team. In the playoffs against the Suns, his efficiency dropped off a little bit, but he still managed to average 22.2 points a game, 6.7 rebounds, and 5 assists, but only shot 39% from the floor and 33% from 3. I would still expect CJ McCollum to have a good season entering the 2023 NBA season as he stars in his new role. Projecting to start at shooting guard in 2023 for the New Orleans Pelicans is Brandon Ingram, who has consistently been one of their best players over the 3 years that he has been here. He will be entering his 7th season at 25 years old. Last season, although he only played 55 games, he still managed to average 22.7 points a game, 5.6 assists, and 5.8 rebounds, while shooting 50% from 2 and 32.7% from 3. Brandon Ingram really stepped it up in the playoffs though. He put up 27 against the Spurs in the play-in game, and then in the next play-in game against the Clippers, he dropped a light 30 points. Then against the number 1 seed Suns in the first round of the playoffs, he averaged 27 points a game, as well as 6.2 rebounds and 6.2 assists, while shooting 40% from 3 and 50% from 2. At just 24 years old, Brandon Ingram is starting to tap into that potential and is just entering his prime. He's going to be a menace with Zion Williamson in the years to come. Starting at small forward for the Pelicans in 2023 will most likely be Herb Jones, who was selected 35th in the 2021 NBA draft out of Alabama. Jones already started 69 games for the Pelicans last year and averaged 9.5 points, 2.1 assists, and 3.8 rebounds a game, and he shot 47.6% from the floor, but was just an average 3-point shooter at about 33%. However, Herb Jones' value comes from his defense. At 6'8" and with 7-foot wingspan, he has the ability to hassle defenders and is the perfect wing defender in the modern NBA. He was in the conversation for making the All-NBA defensive team last year, and he came 3rd in the NBA in steals with 130. Jones has a bright future ahead of him entering his 2nd season in the NBA and is very important to the Pelicans as he is probably already their best defensive player. Starting at power forward for the Pelicans in the 2023 NBA season will be Zion Williamson if he is healthy. Now, with Zion sitting out the entire year due to a foot injury and all the memes about him being fat, you may have forgotten how good Zion Williamson really is. In his first season, he only played 24 games, but in his second season where he played 61 games, he averaged 27 points a game on 61.1% shooting, and made the All-Star team in his second season at just 20 years old. Now, do you know how many other players have averaged 27 points in a game for a season and shot over 60% from the field? Nobody, just Zion Williamson. He's that dominant. In that season, Zion also averaged 19.5 points a game inside the paint, which is the most since Shaquille O'Neal in 2003. He also managed to average 9 free throws a game. And although he is very injury prone, Zion is just 22 years old, and if he can get that under control, he will be a beast for the years to come and a potential Hall of Fame player. When he is healthy, he is New Orleans' best player, and the entire Pelicans' future mainly rests on Zion's health. So if he can get healthy, I really do think this young core will be propelled by Zion to become a really good team, especially with young guys like Brandon Ingram and Herb Jones surrounding him. Starting at center for the New Orleans Pelicans in the 2023 NBA season is one of the most slept on centers in the entire league, Jonas Valanciunas. Valanciunas in the regular season last year averaged 17.8 points a game and 11.4 rebounds, while shooting 54% from the floor and 36% from 3 on 2 attempts a game. Jonas Valanciunas is an elite center, being able to shoot from the outside and be able to score from the post, as well as being a dominant rebounder. In the playoffs against the Suns, he averaged 14.5 points a game and 14.3 rebounds a game. This also included 5.5 offensive rebounds a game. Start sleeping on Valanciunas. So this is the Pelicans starting lineup. It's pretty solid. Definitely think it's a playoff worthy team. You got 2 young superstars in Ingram and Zion. Then you got 2 veterans in McCollum and Valanciunas, and a young defensive stud in Herb Jones. However, the Pelicans also have some really nice guys on the bench as well. They got some good young players who I think can grow into a strong role for this team. First up, you got Larry Nance Jr., who came in from the trade from Portland. He played some big minutes for the Pelicans in the playoffs. He averaged 7.3 points and 4.3 rebounds a game during the regular season, and he's a really good defender. He might be the second best defender on this team actually, and he shot it very well from the floor at 55%. So I think he'll be a strong contributor throughout the season, so keep an eye out for him. Then you also have Jackson Hayes on the bench, who was starting games for the Pelicans in the playoffs at power forward, but now that Zion's back, he'll most likely go back to the bench. He was averaging 9.3 points and 4.5 rebounds last year and shot it very efficiently from the floor at 61.6%. And yeah, he's only 21 years old, so lots of space for him to grow. They also have a couple of nice guards on the bench. They got Devontae Graham and Jose Alvarado. Devontae Graham, he was their starting point guard before CJ McCollum came back, and then he got pushed back to the bench, and then in the playoffs, Jose Alvarado would eventually take his backup point guard spot. But in his 76 games that he played, he averaged 12 points a game, 4.2 assists, so he's a pretty good playmaker. However, he shot the ball very poorly during the season at just 36% from the floor, 34% from 3, and just 41% from 2. So yeah, he's a bit inefficient, but he's still young, 26 years old. He'd be a nice contributor off the bench. Jose Alvarado is a nice piece for them as well. He's an undrafted rookie, and he got some minutes towards the end of the season, playing 20 minutes in the playoffs, and he was 3rd in the NBA rookies in steals, so he's a pretty good defender as well. He's pesky, he's known for that thing where he hides behind you and steals it when you're going up the court. So yeah, I like Alvarado. He hustles a lot. He's kind of undersized, but he brings a lot of good energy, and I think he'll be a good contributor for the Pelicans this year as well. On the bench, you also have Trey Murphy, who is a rookie out of Rice University, who they picked 17th overall last year. I really like this guy. 6'9", really shoots the ball well, great defender. He didn't play much during the regular season, averaged about 5 points a game. But during the playoffs, his minutes stepped up. He got about 20 minutes a game. And he's probably their second best shooter. He shoots it at about 38% from 3, and in the playoffs he shot it at 47%, so I'd like to see him get more minutes this year. He looks like he could be a really good young piece for the future. Now don't forget about the Pelicans draft pick Dyson Daniels this year, who they picked number 8. He's a point guard out of Australia. He played for G League Ignite last year, and he's a nice size for a point guard. He's 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan. He's a great defender. He averaged 11.6 points, 6.7 rebounds and 4.8 assists in the G League last year, as well as 2 steals a game, so he's going to be another good defensive player for the Pelicans. However, his weakness is shooting. He shot at about 30% from 3 last year, and that's something the Pelicans really need, as they only have 2 real decent shooters on their team. So yeah, that's all the main players on the roster. I think this team will be really good next year if healthy. Offensively, this team was 19th last year. I expect that to jump up this year with the return of Zion Williamson. He's going to put a lot of pressure on the rim, adding back 27 points a game. And then you still got Brandon Ingram, who's going to be a beast. He's a beast in the mid-range and can also slash really well. Jonas Valanciunas averaged 18 points a game last year. He's going to be good. And you still got CJ McCollum, their best shooter. He's going to play well in his new role with the Pelicans. I think this team offensively should be about a top 12 offense. The only weakness they have is shooting. Last year they were 28th in 3-pointers made, which is very low, and they don't have a lot of very good 3-point shooters. Only really CJ McCollum, who shoots at about 39% on about 7 attempts a game. Then Brandon Ingram's not a very high volume 3-point shooter at 32%. Herb Jones neither at 33%. Zion doesn't really shoot the ball that much. Jonas Valanciunas shoots it at about 36%, which is about league average, but he only takes about 2 attempts a game. And then on the bench, they didn't really add anybody this year that can shoot the ball. So I don't know how the spacing will work out for the Pelicans next year. So we have to see how that turns out. I think to fully unlock this offense, either Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson needs to become an efficient 3-point shooter. Don't have to be elite, just above average in the sense that teams will have to close out, and then just give the offense more spacing. Defensively, this team came 20th last year in defensive rating. I would expect this to jump up. You got some good defensive pieces in Herb Jones, Dyson Daniels off the bench, and I think this team will have some good length. Obviously CJ McCollum at point guard, he's kind of undersized, and then you got Brandon Ingram at shooting guard. Herb Jones is a beast. Zion has a long wingspan, and then Jonas Valanciunas at the rim. However, defensively, they might not be as mobile as some of the quicker teams, obviously with Zion and Jonas Valanciunas at the forward spots, so they might not be able to keep up with quicker ball handlers in the West. Now, this team came 9th last year, and I definitely see them moving up with the return of Zion and if he's able to stay healthy for the whole season, but it's just hard to gauge where because the West will be very competitive this year. Obviously, at the top, you still have the Suns, the Grizzlies, the Warriors, and the Mavs will be up there somewhere. And with the return of Jamal Murray to the Denver Nuggets, as well as Kawhi and PG to the Clippers, those guys all look like they'll take out the top 6 spots, and as well as Rudy Gobert joining the Timberwolves. I think the Pelicans will finish around 7th next year with the return of Zion, but they could possibly go as high as about 5th, but if they don't stay healthy, I could see them dropping to about 10th. That's the end of the video today, guys. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.